Hello and welcome back to the IB Stressin podcast. We are here filming our third episode titled A Bio Teacher That's Funny, Pause. And as a reward for our loyal listeners, we have decided that for this episode, we're going to have two special guests to touch on two separate experiences. It's going to be an amazing episode. We're going to have Mr. Akhter, a teacher that is world renowned at our school, and Tina, who's going to be talking about her experience from coming abroad to school and IB here. So, our first segment, we're going to talk about the transition that we had from in real life to virtual school, and I believe Iris is going to set us off. Iris, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned in the first episode, I believe, I am someone who's come to the school we study IB at now from another town, and I still live in another town. So, as someone who spent 2 hours a day via transport, via bus, going back and forth from school, shifting to virtual school was a much bigger transition for me than probably most of the local kids at our school. I think one big benefit of the transition to virtual school this year is the flexibility we get with all the time that's been freed up. And as grade 12, we really feel that, especially when we're finishing up homework at 11:40. I know a lot of us do that here, or at least I hope you guys do, otherwise it's just me. And there's been a lot of adapting to this new schedule. I know for a fact that a lot of people haven't taken the time to sleep in a lot, which is another benefit. But to because we need balance here, and I've been taught to always evaluate with balance. I feel like one thing that we could probably consider for transitioning to virtual school is, of course, the fact that classes are no longer as interactive. As someone who fell asleep in class, even in person, I virtual class has been a very big struggle for me to stay awake and stay present.
I very much felt that. Literally every single day this week, if I went to class, which you think it wouldn't be that difficult. You'd think it's like, okay, you log in on your computer, that's all it takes. No, 8 a.m. classes
So
just
difficult.
hit a little different now because I can't get up for them. There's no pressure, there's no socializing, there's none of like the excitement that comes with going to school. And so it's just like, it's just not interesting enough for me to wake up. And I know that a lot of other people like, how many of us have been doing class in our bed? Okay, it's
Oh
me,
my
but
God.
yeah, okay, yeah.
History class every single day. We had a lecture at 8 a.m. I would literally slide to my right, pull over my phone, and just like open the Meet and listen as if it was some sort of podcast.
No, literally, which is not the way you want to be learning. Like, it's especially when you have to take notes. It's just like,
Oof.
ugh. And also like they talk about it like, oh, you have so much more time now, you can get so much more done. So the whole like advanced schedule idea, like where they speed up all of our classes, it doesn't work at all. Too much free time is as bad as not enough time to do your work. It's just like the procrastination that was already so bad doing IB got even got even worse.
And a very interesting thing is just the fact that that is actually something I learned when we transitioned to online school. I realized that I never went to school to study. I went to see
Felt
people. The
that.
truth is,
Felt
I
that.
can do all of that studying just as well from home, even if it's through the screen. You know, you still get the same amount of information. It's a bit harder to ask questions, of course, but the dynamic is relatively good, I would say, like in terms of actually teaching and learning. I learned like it hasn't been, the online stuff hasn't actually in itself stopped me from learning anything new, but the fact that we can't go, that's the thing. I went to school to see the teachers, to talk to the teachers, to talk to my friends and people that I saw, and potentially show off a cute outfit.
I felt that. I felt that. Like the outfits was the like getting to plan an outfit and getting to like see my friends and having them like gas me up. That was one of the best experiences of like walking through the halls. And you just don't get that anymore. But also, I disagree with you, Anna, on that one piece where you said like the learning hasn't changed, because it really has for me. Being able to be like not moderated by a teacher and not really supervised ruined my my work ethic. I don't know, does anyone else have the experience, or is it like business as usual?
I totally agree. The whole point of me joining IB was that I feel like I don't have any self-discipline, so I needed more workload to keep me working. Because I feel like if I was an academic, I would still be the
Exactly. Yeah.
medium student as I am and be lazy and not work. And that way I would just die. But in IB, I'm still dying, but dying with a university to go to. So on the other hand of that, the thing I'm missing the most is the senior year experience, because that's what the whole high school is really about. Like, the only thing we're all looking forward to. I never forget in grade 9 and 10, especially sitting in the classroom, halfway through class, suddenly teacher just leaves, walks into the hallway, start like chatting with some grade 12 people, and you just miss half the class. And I always,
And,
like, that's the one thing I look forward to doing.
And the envy we used to feel watching those grade 12s come in and just start like talking to the teacher like they own the place. That was, I know at least for me, I was looking forward to that.
Yeah, I just want to, when Tina mentioned the senior year stuff, I just remembered a story that kind of relates to Layla's point about the drama. As we know, prom is a big part of senior year. And I remember in, I think, grade 10, yes, grade 10, because 2 years ago, I remember seeing these prom proposals all over the place in this school and just watching, like, ooh, like, what's going on?
And it was always
we
so
don't
interesting.
get that this year, which is so upsetting because I was looking forward to seeing my friends get these banging promposals and get asked out to prom, but
then my friends hit hard.
It was always interesting watching because I remember there was this one couple that was just like, they were so romantic. Everyone loved them. I'm not gonna name names, obviously. Everyone loved them and like envied their relationship. But then I had a friend who was friends with them and like knew that behind the scenes it was like toxic and like just falling apart. And they actually ended up falling apart when they left for university. But like, I feel like this year, because we know our classmates a lot better, um, like it would have been so much more entertaining watching the promposals because it would have been like on one side, like, you know, the facade and like you see like the excitement and all that stuff, but then knowing the behind the scenes of like all the chaos that led up to that moment, I feel like that would have been so much more worth it. Okay,
no, on a positive note, this is not to promote toxic relationship, guys. Do not.
True.
Important disclaimer.
Paul,
a necessary disclaimer.
Would you rather get promposed to in like public, like in front of people, in front of the school, or like private, just in front of like maybe a few friends? Like, what's your preference?
Well, definitely for me, it really depends on the person, I guess. I don't have anyone specific in mind, but like if it's someone relatively okay and acceptable, then sure, public, private, I don't care. But if that is a rejection, the better happen in private, because I know earlier I wasn't even at this school, but I had a friend who was in grade 12, and she got prom pros when we were in the middle of a club and we were all rehearsing, and this guy just walked into the theater and started like with flowers in his hand, and it was so embarrassing. My friend was like she was like, oh god, frozen on stage, did not know what to do, and everyone was watching, and we all agreed that we made up a story saying that we got the flowers for her to thank her for her work to the club, so she could bring the flowers home and not be suspicious by her parents. That was the whole story.
Oh my god.
I think, I would rather be proposed to in private, just to make sure that we're on the, like on the same page with whoever's proposing to me, so that I know I'm gonna say yes and that I like that person. However, if I do say yes, I would want him to make like a big public proposal so that other people know what's up, That's like the thing. That's the thing. Play it safe, but also have that publicity.
So that other people know that you are indeed wanted.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah. I was literally thinking the exact same thing, Joanna. Initial proposals should be private. that's how you know you're on the same page, and you can comfortably say no depending on the person, of course.
I like how you're all
Ideally, you know,
preparing for
everything is happy,
rejections.
but nothing is ideal. But if they said yes, then I would think public celebration would be a fun time.
I think that, like, me personally, even if I knew I was gonna say yes, no part of me wants to be in front of like like on the stage of like none of that. I'd rather it be like something cute, but like maybe just in front of a few friends, like so maybe one person recording so I have it. But I don't know. That's just me. The idea of even if I'm saying yes, the idea of it being in front of everyone else, that's just way too much attention and like stress and like anxiety.
So, one time I was walking to bio and there was like this couple outside getting a proposal, and I was really just trying to get into class, and I think I 100% like photobombed their video. So wherever those two are, like I'm so happy to be in that moment with you. And then, like speaking of bio, should we like move on towards chief
Can we let
guest of
him in?
honor
I
today,
think
Mr. Akhter?
that is the
Like, that would be
perfect
great.
segue.
Then knock him at the
Let
gate.
him in. I think
The
I
man
think
of
he
the
might
hour.
have some
Okay.
insight.
Well, let's introduce Mr. Akhter then.
All right, and now on to our special guest, Mr. Akhter, the funniest bio teacher out there. We brought him in for a reason. We thought he would light up the day or the night in here. So, just to start it off, in terms of forming connections with your students during those tough times, you are remarkably good at this. And I would say that it's because you have some pretty interesting stories to tell. Is that so, in your opinion? Would you say that that's like a point for bonding, something that really bridges the gap between you and your students?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on this prestigious show. This is an honor, one that I cherish very deeply. And in terms of your question, I wouldn't say I have a knack for bonding with the students, but I feel like I get students on most levels when it comes to school, personal life, etc. Mainly because I've been through a lot of what the students are going through, not the pandemic per se, but more so, like the friendship issues and the school issues, sports issues, that kind of stuff. And so the personal stories are just my way of kind of relating to them and making them see like, hey, you're not alone in this matter. I've been through it, or I know people that have gone through it. Here's what I did. Maybe this can help you out. And I've been very unfortunate in my life that majority of these stories end up with me coming out on the bottom and always losing. And I think that provides a very comedic relief to a lot of students. So I would rather them laugh at my pain than have to deal with their own pain. So that's kind of my philosophy on sharing stories. So yeah, I think it
That was so
definitely
sweet.
helps.
Definitely
That
agree
was
with
so
that. for
sentimental.
sure.
Yeah.
But do you practice those stories? Would you tell them? Because
Imagine-
I think that you recycle some of them. I know you do. Like,
Yeah,
to
Mr.
tell
Akhter,
over time.
in the part of your morning routine in the vlog, did you skip the step where like you're like with your toothbrush in front of the mirror practicing your story?
So majority of teachers spend their time lesson planning and coming up, okay, well, how do I make sure that all my students learn this? I do none of that. I just think about what story works best with the topic that I'm teaching. So for example, the other day we were talking about sexual reproduction. So I decided to come up with a story of why not to ask a woman for her age due to the biological clock ticking. That's not a good thing to do, and I found out the hard way. So I'm teaching life lessons through these actual biology lessons. So I don't practice my stories, but they do come to me on the fly when someone brings something up. So I think that also helps because it's like natural in a way.
How does it feel
Yeah, so-
knowing that your stories were good enough to attract other students from other classes, i.e. me? You've never taught me, but I show up all the time.
Yeah, you know what? That's one of those like unintended consequences that I have to deal with. I'm pretty sure it's not allowed to
Slander.
have other students
Slander.
in the class. But you know what? I enjoy meeting students of every class. I like the fact that I know students that I've never taught before, you being one of them. And I just really like the fact that when I walk through the halls, even if I see a student that I don't know from teaching, I still know them from either someone I've taught or a friend of a friend kind of thing. Yeah, it makes working a lot more enjoyable for sure.
Clearly, you can see a lot of actual learning goes on in his classes.
Yeah, we don't do that here.
Okay, yeah,
No,
I
I mean
mean,
we do, yeah.
For legal purposes, everyone's passing with high 90s, all sevens. No
It's
slacking
very true.
we
around.
Class
really
average is
are.
high
That's
80s.
becoming a problem. We're too smart.
Class average is in the 80s, so
IB, please give us more sevens.
And they'll try.
So, speaking of
So
stories,
when we're talking,
go for it.
yeah, no, when we're talking about those stories, would you say, like, I know you like to be very like self-critical as sort of a like type of humor that you have. I mean, I do the same thing. It's like a coping mechanism. It's like a funny, like a
Please don't.
punchline. But would you like, are you happy about the impact that
Are you
those
happy,
stories
period?
have had on your students?
am I happy? No. But
Do
am
you
I,
think they have had a good impact? Because I mean, you keep telling the stories, so there must be some sort of like a learning outcome, something that you're seeing.
yeah, I
something
find that
moving.
it does help some of the because some majority of my stories I try to make it relevant to the topic to make it more relatable, to make it more seem humanly. So I do think it helps because I've had students in the past write things on their test based off a story that I told them. So the grade nines, they know the star story. And so just recently I taught grade nine virtually, and I had multiple grade nines answer a question about some star related knowledge based off the story that I told them. Right, some of them put
That's
it in
so
as
cute.
comedy, yeah, and some of them put it. Well, the story was very sad because it ended up with me getting dumped, but the content was very good because they got the question right. So hey, that works for me. I'm down for that.
The IB mark scheme really
Yeah.
said, we don't do that here.
The IB mark scheme definitely takes away from my personal teaching methods for sure.
Wait, so then, in honor of the drama that we try and stem in our podcast, are there any
Yeah.
topics that you try to avoid? Any things that you've deemed we don't deserve to hear, or just simply can't be told on school grounds?
I'm
If-
convinced
if-
that this man has forged an entire life
Oh,
story
100%.
just to tell us, and it's all fake. Like, that's my conspiracy.
Feel free to speak on it on this podcast. It's not like it's recorded or anything, so you're fine.
No, all my stories are true. I don't make up stories. All of them are based off real life experiences, and it just happens to be that I have a story for the majority of things that come up. But there are some things that I don't really talk about. Mainly not because I'm scared or shy to talk about them. I think we should be open, communicating about everything. But things like religion, things like very controversial topics, right? Pro-life, pro-choice, things like that. I do try to keep to a minimum because my job is to educate and hopefully inspire. That's what they tell me. But I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to overstep my jurisdiction per se by talking about something that someone might not believe in, right? And one of the things I do often, even as a bio teacher, like we talk about evolution, we teach evolution, but I make sure that students understand that, hey, look, this is something that you should know just so you know it, right? You don't have to fully believe in this if you are very religious or you have your own religious backgrounds. That's totally fine, and I respect that. But the more knowledgeable you are about the topic, the more it can help you make an informed decision on your opinion, right? The more knowledge, the better. That's so things like religion, I really try to keep out of it.
Wait, so have you ever like struggled with keeping your own like political views or stuff out of it? Has that ever been an issue?
Well, it depends on what the topic is. I offer my opinion if I'm asked for it, but I also keep in mind that, okay, well, what am I being asked for? So if someone asks me, are you pro-life, are you pro-choice? Or do you believe in this religion or this religion? Those things I won't answer just because there's no right answer to that question, right? Everyone's got their own opinions. Everyone's got their own backgrounds and beliefs. So I won't answer questions like that. But if you ask me about what do you think about the Raptors, I'll give you my opinion, right? What do you think about IB? I'll tell you my opinion, right? If you ask me what do you think about me, I would tell you you're trash. I'm sorry. I mean, I would tell you what I think. So those are opinions that I will share openly.
Yeah,
again, the
Mr.
question
Actress
is be
classroom is a
happy.
very safe space.
Yes, I try to make it as inclusive as possible. I make fun of everyone though, so keep that in mind. I'm including everyone by making fun of everyone.
It's a safe space by being safe for absolutely no one.
Exactly. Right?
I can confirm that I have been on the receiving end of his roasts many times.
Yes. I think everyone in this podcast has been on the end of my roasts.
Drop a roast for us.
Do you want me to show them your mark?
Oh.
He got you there too.
Can
He
you
got
ask
you
Mom?
there.
By all means.
Okay, so on the spot, very skilled. Do you tell these stories like in the teachers' lounge that you have of us, and you usually in general your stories that you have like Microsoft story, Brock story, like do you tell these things to people? Like, to like some of the
In
teachers?
the break room, he pulls up his PowerPoint.
I don't tell them the big stories, so like the Microsoft and Brock ones, mainly because they will definitely judge me as a professional. So I definitely don't want to do that. Although that being said,
As a professional,
exactly.
okay.
Getting the video over there.
Yeah. Although first quad, I was teaching in the library, and so it was me and 3 other teachers. And because we were sharing the space, obviously socially distanced, but because they could hear me, a lot of them would start tuning into my story, and then they would start like cutting their class early just so they could listen to the end of my story. To the point where after a while, I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just tell you guys the story during lunchtime, so that way you can at least focus on teaching your students rather than me distracting both of them. So I have had to tell the story to a couple teachers, but for the most part, I keep it just for the students.
Further reinforcing
Have
the
they
point that you're a
judged you
public nuisance.
professionally?
They definitely judge me professionally. Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
he still has his job, so we're in the clear.
3
Yeah.
bio credits.
Although 2 years ago I lost my job, so it's a little bit shaky.
Oh yeah.
it's-
Wait, that was because of the cuts, right? Like,
And that was because of the budget cuts. Yes.
and you were the newest teacher, but then they
I was one
rehired
of the
you,
newest.
so that's
Yeah,
that's a
they were
dub.
super desperate. Yeah, they were super desperate. And
It
so I came back.
was gonna happen again last year, but then we wrote that letter. And then
Which
we
I
never got
appreciate.
to use it.
Yes. Yeah, no, it happened last year too, but then again, I got called back. I always say this, IB, as much as it does cause pain and suffering, I do have a love-hate relationship with it in the sense that I love it because it's my job, and it's the only reason I keep getting called back. But I hate it because it is much harder to do.
Do you?
I
think
mean,
that-
I feel like I have a love-hate relationship with almost everything in my life, so I would say that's a healthy dynamic.
Okay, Joanna.
That's fair. That's fair.
Do you think that it's like easier to teach this IB specific curriculum virtually, or like worse than when you have all your kids in front of you?
I personally find it's easier to teach when everyone's in front of me. So that way I can actually look at people and see, hey, does that person get it? And if their eyes are rolled back, chances are they didn't. Whereas online, I just see icons. So me looking at an icon of, Kogeyama does not really help with finding out if that student knows what's happening. So I prefer them all being in person when teaching IB. Although the nice thing about IB is that it is a very learner-focused program. So a lot of the learning the students do on their own. And I'm not going to pretend like I teach them everything because I don't. They do have a lot of initiative and they do learn quite a bit on their own. So I just kind of facilitate it, if anything.
Yeah, I would say we're amazing at that.
I feel like you don't give yourself enough credit there. Like you make it. I've talked to some people in your class, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm not particularly interested in bio, but I'm interested in the way he teaches it." And so because of
Yeah.
like that
Even
classroom
though
environment,
We might be like, even though we might teach ourselves things, you give us like the motivation to want to teach ourselves it. Because with another teacher, I would, fail even harder than I am right now.
and
Fair.
there's a reason why I didn't do so well in math. It's because I hated a few of my teachers, and therefore no inspiration, no motivation to actually work.
Yeah, your class makes us want to go to class, which I think really helps in terms of the motivation factor. It's it's more fun to learn or like be more engaged with something if you're willing to go to class and like talk.
So what you're saying is I shouldn't do what I'm doing to keep you out of my class, so that way I have less students to deal with. That's what I'm hearing
Well,
here.
I
No,
would
I
say
appreciate that.
what we want to say is that, like, in the spirit of this pandemic, we are including you on this podcast for a reason. We want people to take
True.
notes. We want people to know, what works and what doesn't work. And you work, the devil works hard, but you work harder. Those tests, the way you mark them, the speed with which you do everything,
The
and
speed at which he
just
fails
your,
us.
just your kindness and your humor. Your humor really is elite. That's something that we definitely do love about you. So yeah, that's the reason why you're here. So
I do appreciate that. That means quite a bit to me. And I put on a front like, I'm this super cool, very swaggy, no emotion kind of guy, but I do appreciate sentiments like that. So yeah.
And I
Exactly.
think that because we're coming up on our time, we should end off on a good note. You are the king of story times. Is there a really good memory that you have as a teacher specifically that you want to spill for the podcast?
My favorite memory as a teacher would probably be last year. I taught year one IB course, and at the end of the semester, and it was a great class. It was really good, lots of good personalities in there, and it was also their first experience with IB. So I felt like, and it was my first year teaching that specific course, so we both kind of bonded based off that. And so that class was really nice. At the end of the year, they got me this box, right? This big box. And I was like dead certain, like it was a gift. I was like dead certain that they got me a dog. And so I put my ear to the box. And I'm like, is it a dog? And I didn't hear anything. So then I was worried that the dog was not alive anymore because they had put it in the box, right? So I quickly
Not
opened the
an air
box to
hole
kind
in
of,
sight.
yeah, quickly opened the box to kind of let the dog breathe or whatnot. And I opened it. And it was a very nice card, a handmade card with my favorite Pokemon on it, and then every student had written a little something in there. And that in itself was incredible. Like, again, I'm not the most emotionally available kind of person, but I do keep a box of all my sentiments, like the cards that I've gotten in the past, little tidbits that students have given me. But behind the card or underneath the card, when I took the card away, was a pair of Jordan shoes. And I'm a big shoe guy, and I've seen videos of it on Instagram, like people giving their teacher shoes and stuff, but I would never in my entire life think I would be on the receiving end of that. And then the fact that these kids snaked their way to find out my shoe size, the type of shoe I like, the model I like, it was crazy. So that's probably going to be a memory. That is a
Introduction
memory.
here.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
did not snake him. He is just oblivious to the ends of the earth.
Supposedly I told them my shoe size, but I don't remember telling them this. So
Someone straight
you
up
did
went up to
tell us.
and asked you what your shoe size was, and you just spit it out.
I thought he was just having conversation with me. But that's a memory I'll always remember because that's something that's just once in a lifetime. It was nuts.
Okay, and I think that concludes this segment of our podcast. Thank you so much, Mr. Akhter, for joining today and sharing your stories. It means a lot to us, and it means a lot that you're sharing your experiences with the world. So thank you.
Thank you
I
so much.
appreciate. Yeah, you guys are welcome. Thank you for having me. I hope you guys have a great time with the rest of the podcast, and stay safe.
You too. Thank you.
Now, onto a special segment on immigration. We're going to have Joanna, Hanya, and our special guest star, Tina, give us their take.
Following what we just said with Mr. Akhter, I think the COVID adjustment is a really popular topic right now, but the adjustment really started long before that with the immigration, which is relatable for most of us. I think an important thing about my experience as an immigrant in Canada is the difference in really school structure. So in here, it's more like university style. You have to navigate to your own classrooms every period. Long way walking in the hallways. For at our school, you're gonna had one semester where it has to cross a road 6 times a day. Amazing. Whereas in China, we were all in our own classes, so we get along in our own pack of like 30, 40 all the time, morning to night, and we are all like super good friends. Really easy to socialize
Wait,
in
so
class because
the same people the entire year?
the same people the entire basically the entire few years. So like elementary, you basically have the same people for 6 years straight, and then three, then go to university.
So were you able to meet other students from other classes?
Of course, there are still school activities, and there were during break, during lunch, during everything, clubs. You can meet other people, and it's also easy to make friends. And we really had the kind of like classification based on class, so we also knew each other in a more, I guess, easier way. Whereas here, yeah, I was shocked. It was so hard to socialize in the beginning, especially as a new student. Everyone already knew everyone else.
And I can imagine that would be like super overwhelming too, with just the sheer amount of students that you see on like a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Just working off the number of students, like just interject. I came from a school with a graduating class of maybe 40 people, so I had no more than like 60 people in my grade at any point in my entire life. So doing that and then coming here and having what, upwards of 400 kids in our grade,
I think so, yeah.
something absurd like that. Yeah, it was such a weird experience for me because I knew everyone in my grade. They knew me. We knew all the teachers. There wasn't a situation where you'd be like, yo, John got hit by a bus. And I'd be like, who is John? Like, I know who John was. Here, if some John got hit by a bus, I'd be like, which John? There's so many.
Thank you, honey.
Point is that it's a lot harder to know everyone here and to become like a big graduating class community. Even now, like I've been here for 3 years, I still know like 20% of our grade, so I might not know John. But
I really agree. Like every day I go to a new class. Every first day of each semester, I go into a class. I'm like, wait, those people exist? Like these are actual people? Like I have no memory of them in my brain. Like I have no idea who they are. No idea they're in our school. No idea whatever.
It's actually kind of interesting because Tina, like I just kind of met you this year then, and I assumed that you went to WAS for the entire time, and I just never met you. Like that like I understand completely what you're talking about.
Exactly. I met a lot of people, almost everyone here. Like I only got to know two this year because, as I said, I also have friends who has never had classes with me, and that's I guess a unique part of school experience in North America and Canada.
And just to continue with that like whole immigration experience idea, I think that some of the things that I learned from like immigrating here and having to adjust to life in Canada have helped me with adjusting to IB and then with adjusting to like a whole new lifestyle because of COVID. Similar to Tina, I also did spend like most of my time with one single class, even though we definitely did have like relationships and like conversations with people from other classes. Like we were all very close, but just in terms of your homeroom, it was just one class for a set amount of years. And the thing that was different from the considering the way I studied is that it was very like everything was very memorization based. And it was mostly about developing, not developing practical skills, but learning information under what was thought to be acquiring knowledge. However, it wasn't necessarily useful. And I find that same dynamic in IB sometimes because it's supposed to be making us well-rounded students, people who can feed off of all areas of life, and people who have a lot of practical skills. That's one of the things that is being developed. However, the truth is that that's not always the case. A lot of the times, you know the material, you have good practical skills. However, you have to focus mostly on memorizing certain things, especially like the thing with the question banks that they give us. Question banks are very specific. The things that they take like the questions off of to give us on the test. So that's where memorization really comes in, and where we have to like initiate that part of Our learning, yes, Layla?
I just had a question for all three of you, actually. Do you prefer it here or there? Like back where you were before right now?
Well, yeah, Kanye, go ahead.
For me, there was a difference. So if you're talking about the school system, I preferred it there. You know, it's like I love it here. I love IB and all of that. Good. Actually, I'll go off on two tangents here. So number one, benefit of IB is that you do have smaller classes objectively compared to the normal academic classes. There are a lot of times, like our history class had 9 people in it. You will not find a 9-person class anywhere else in an IB school in Ontario. But in a comparison, like a lot of my classes, like my bio class, at my old school, we had like 8 people, and then my chemistry class was the biggest class I had, and we had 18. So smaller classes means a lot more one-on-one time with your teachers, and obviously, that's why private schools exist. It's like you want that time with your teachers, you want that more one-on-one time. So in terms of academics, I'd say I sort of preferred it there, but the environment. So I'm okay with disclosing this. I lived in Saudi Arabia, so very different from Canada. Completely, complete like 180.
Oh yeah.
So like here, I have my license. I can go out, drive. I can do whatever I want. I can go to like I can do anything. I can go out after dark, and my parents would like they wouldn't be concerned. There, I don't want to push the stereotype or anything because I did have a good amount of freedom. I lived a very sheltered life from most things, but it was more difficult. You weren't as independent, and that lack of independence can really stunt your growth as a human. Like as you know, as an adult, you will not reach that level of independence, and then you come to university. I see so many people in those little bubbles, and they go to university, and it's like a whole new experience, and they don't even know how to do their own laundry, let alone like survive.
Yeah, I mean, I am actually the exact opposite of Hanya. Like, in terms of school, I like it here better. In terms of everything else, I liked it back in Bulgaria better because that's where I'm from. But the truth is, it's very hard to define. Like, that's actually the number one question I've always struggled with. Like, where do you like it better? Well, there's so many things to consider. You know, sometimes it's not necessarily about where do you like it better and where it is better, but where you feel better, regardless of how good it is. So, in terms of school, where I went to school, it was the school there was simply not good. It wasn't focused on actually developing us as people, but mostly just, I know it sounds super cliche, but making us into machines because we always had like a set number of things and set number of like pages we had to read or set number of things that we had to know. So it was a very trapping environment in that sort. It was very solitary. It was there wasn't like any room for improvement. It was just like a set of rules and a set of things that you had to do. Whereas here, and especially in IB, wow, IB does it's like a mix of making you into a robot, but at the same time making you into a well-rounded person.
On that note, I feel like where I come from, I think most countries in Asia are considered to have strict rules, especially in the education system, and making kids into robots, diminishing creativity, and so on. But for me, I feel like it's more of culture shock, the culture gap, because what I had before is like in my childhood, I knew how my parents grew up and how my grandparents grew up before that, and they're all following the similar paths, and that's what I always anticipated, like expected for myself. And then all of a sudden, it's not gonna be my path anymore, and the things that I expected, although might not be all positive, are not happening to me, and I just feel like especially when I first came, it's like a huge pity for me to lose all these experiences.
And I think that is actually all the time we have today. But shout out to every single one of the podcast creators here, and shout out Tina and Mr. Akhter for their special contributions. We hope you tune in next week. Thank you so much.